men. And of course I use the term loosely. This is of course my panhead, and as you may notice, there's a giant hole over there where the oil tank and the tranny are supposed to be. Where, pray tell, might those items be, you ask? This crusty lump of an oil tank is right there. That's what we're going to talk about now. I'm going to drill a giant ass hole right in the middle of that thing. Let's show you how I'm going to do it. Personally, I think all oil tanks ought to have a giant ass hole in them. I don't know how old this is. It is not original to the bike because it has an oil filter, integral oil filter, and that definitely was not a stock Harley thing. But nonetheless, this thing could be, 15, 20 years old. And oil tanks are prone to condensation, crud, all kinds of stuff. And you can't see in there. I mean, I got a video camera and I could poke it around in there and I could see most of what's in there. But if I saw something, there's nothing really I could do about it conveniently. I want a big hole right here so I could reach a hand in there and, maybe manipulate some sandpaper around if I had to, or really clean it out if I wanted to. So we got to put a big hole in here. And there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 ways to do that. I mean, I could get in there with a cutoff wheel and, kind of hack it out and around. What I'm going to use is a hole saw. One of the other reasons I'm going to get a hole in there is because I'm going to take this to my guy down the street that does powder coating, because I powder coated it once and I really did not do a very good job. So I'm going to have somebody who does it professionally do this. And he may be a little concerned that this thing is going to blow up on him because it had a petroleum product in it, oil. And the only way I could really get it clean and dry on the inside is if I could open it up and, mop everything out of there and put a degreaser in there. I don't want to degrease it with, gasoline or diesel, because then, of course, he puts it in his powder coat oven and it will blow up. So I got an idea. We'll show you in a minute. First part of the idea is I need a cradle to hold this thing. And we're going to put it on the mill. And I'm going to make somewhat of a cradle, and it's going to be made out of this piece of wood, I hope. In this cocksucker, I've held it every conceivable angle a person can come up with, and still, no matter how I twist it around, the fucker's oozing oil out of it. Anyway, we're going to cut this out. All right, let's see what kind of damage this could do. Well, that works surprisingly well. All right, got the oil tank clamped into the 2x4 cradle I cut out. Got a toe clamp holding it down on this side. Come around over here. It just happened to be that the front of the tank was just the right height off of the mill table that another toe clamp under there got it leveled out. Another toe clamp back here holding it down. I marked the center of the hole up underneath there. Fortunately, the hole saw has holes in it, and I could see through the holes to locate my mark for the center. So let's try to drill a hole in this thing. Oh, and I got a Jippo borescope thing. It was $30. I shoved it in the hole, and it has a light on it, but I can't manipulate it around because this does have an integral oil filter in it. So there's oil lines somewhere in here. And I wanted to make sure I was going to clear the oil lines. I can't get a mirror, a light, or the Jippo video camera in there at sufficient angles and light to see. So we're going to go with what we got. I'm sure if I tried to do this by holding on to it, you know, just with my bare hands, well, the thing wants to go every direction because it's round on the front, you know. But I'm sure the torque of the drill would tear it out of my hands and probably hurt me. In my old age, I'm getting less and less tolerant to mechanical things that want to hurt me while I'm trying to work on them. So, you know, it's pretty solid in there. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I got the mill turned down to its slowest speed, which happens to be 95 RPMs. So let's fire it up and see what happens. Put a little cutting juice on there. Pilot hole is in. Oh, that's lovely. That sounds lovely. Suck cess. I've now destroyed an oil tank. All right. All right, I'm back out in the dirty shop, and I'm going to fabricate the parts that are going to plug the big hole I drilled in the oil tank. And, you know, remember the objective of this is I wanted an inspection plate I could take off to look inside the tank and clean sludge out of the bottom, that kind of shit. So I had considered going to Home Depot or whatever and looking at the cast iron pipe fittings. And I was thinking about buying one of those cast iron deals with the brass plug in it for doing a clean out on a sewer line or something. That might have worked. I kind of like the idea of having just one big plug I could screw in. I don't know. I thought I'd have trouble with that leaking though. So we're going with the simple plate. We're going to put a bolt circle on it with six bolts in it. These parts, of course, I could have made out of, you know, a chunk of steel, but I found a guy on the internet on eBay who sells steel shapes, and I think one of these was $6 and the other one was $8. I mean, you can't beat that. You know, you put a lot of time into making something, and you know, you could buy one for, you know, $5-10 or whatever. Let's talk about the setup a little bit. I have arranged this triangle of clamps to hold this part in one place. I could do some machining and drilling on it, and if need be, I could remove it from the mill and put it back in the same spot. And I think what's going to happen is this, is I'm going to clamp this all down, drill the 6 holes in it, take this off, go into the other shop and just drill the through holes with the drill press. They don't need to be too particularly precise. And that will keep this ring in place without moving. And then I could come back and use the mill to help tap. So that's what we're going to do. And just to FYI, to locate the center of this thing, I just use the, combination square. And the pencil lines on here I kind of see, but there's one here that doesn't intersect with the center, and I assume that's because the disc isn't exactly round. So I took the 3 lines that did intersect, I called that the center, and I center punched it. And I'm going to use that center punch as the locating point when I set up the DRO to do the bolt circle. Okay, I dropped the pointed end of a standard edge finder into the hole and just manipulated the mill table back and forth, until the edges were even here. There's probably more precise ways. Well, I know there's more precise ways to do that, but that's as good as this needs to be. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going to zero out the DRO and set the bolt pattern up. All right, so I'm going to go through now with the tap drill, and the next part is going to be the tricky part. I'm going to leave the setup as it is, and I do not obviously want to penetrate the bottom ring because I'll be drilling into my mill table, and I want the bottom of the screw holes to be closed. I don't want them open because they're going to be inside the tank and oil could migrate through the threaded hole and leak out. So we're going to have to set up a 0 on the Z-axis DRO and make sure I stop at the correct depth. All right, I'm getting ready to drill the holes in the oil tank. And this was one of the trickier operations. When you put the cover plate on, to use as a template to match your holes, you can't see whether the cover plate is centered over the hole. So there was some fairly careful measurement involved with that. I think I got it where I want it. Tried several times and, marked it out and whatever. But I think I got it where I want it. And of course now problem number 2 is the holes are too close to the side of the oil tank to get a drill bit in there. When I put the drill press in there, the chuck is going to hit the side. So one of the things that's real fortunate about having machining equipment is I made a drill bit extension. So we're going to try this out and see if it works. And I got my wooden cradle underneath there to, get it in a stable position so I could drill. And I think that'll work. Piece of cake. Okay, one of the things I did when I was getting this tank ready, and I sanded all the powder coat off of it and smoothed it up and ground on it a bunch, is I cut this circle in here, this semicircle, so that I could get straight on the screws. I knew I was going to have to do that, so I gave myself some clearance here because this used to come straight across. But anyway, gave myself some clearance, so we're going to pull that plate off and we're going to do a dry fit on it and see how it goes. Okay, the holes for the cover plate are all drilled. In order to get a drill down in there, I had to make a drill bit extension, and they raised a pretty significant burr on the back side. I also added 2 holes here and here to retain the mounting plate inside the tank. I had to countersink those holes, so I had to make another drill bit extension for the countersink because the drill chuck would not clear the sides of the tank. Like I said, they raised a significant burr on the inside. A couple of them up near the top here, I was able to deburr with a standard deburring tool and just scraped the burr off the back. The other ones, you know, the angle's not right and I couldn't get it. What I ended up doing was this. I have one of these guys. It's called the cham bit, and it is a countersinking, well, not a countersinking, but a deburring tool that uses a set screw to hold it onto your drill. And of course, I needed to get to the back. So what I did was this. I got a hold of a piece of rod. I had to do a little machining on the end so the bit would fit on it. And it's now possible to feed the rod through the hole. Once you get it through the hole, you could feed it into the deburring bit and tighten the set screw. Then you could pull it up after you get the deburring tool set screw tight and you got it secured on the rod, you could pull it back up through the hole, clamp your drill on over here, and use the deburring features of this tool to deburr the back side of the hole. Once again, having a lathe and a milling machine to make some of these little gadgets with really comes in handy. So I got a couple more holes to deburr. I'm going to get on that. All right, let's do one more. Got it. All right, let's assemble some of these parts for you. Okay, I'm going to call it the backing ring is installed. I'm not sure on the final version whether I'm going to use a gasket between this backing plate and the oil tank, or whether I'm just going to use the fuel tank sealant I have. One or the other. But anyway, let's make a gasket and we'll put the lid on it. And we're very close to giving this thing a leak check. All right, let's put the cover plate on, and I guess the next step is going to be to figure out how to leak check this thing. Okay, leak check is next. Alright, we're going to pressure test it. I got the big hole in the top welded. I got the cover plate for the trap door bolted in on the other side. I got all of the orifices plugged except for the one we're going to put air into. Got my hoses hooked up. Got the air compressor turned on, and we're just going to crank this son of a bitch until it blows. Alright, we're giving it all she's got. No, I did not blow the tank up to 180 psi or whatever it was on there. Pressure testing is done. I usually never go more than 5. 4 or 5, that's about as high as I think you want to grow. You put 180 pounds in this, it's going to blow up. Anyway, Everything is done as far as it needs to be right now. I'm having it professionally powder coated with a guy who works in the next town over from me, and I'm doing that because I fucked it up the first time, and I have no reason to believe that I'm not going to fuck it up again. I also added a 1/4 inch thick piece of steel over here, onto which I am going to screw a electrical terminal strip to make my connections to the bike. Everything, this is the oil filter mount, and I cut the top of an old oil filter off, screwed it on there. That way I want the rubber O-ring on the oil filters to mate to bare metal, not to powder coat. So that's masked off. This is just a thin piece of sheet metal masking the area where the actual cover plate is going to sit, because I want the gasket on this seating on bare metal on the tank. So all the holes are plugged, it's cleaned out, it's ready to go. Next time you see this, it'll be powder coated.